Welcome again to the Nick Izumi channel. I am Nick Izumi.
And I am Arcemise.
We're back again to talk about the thing we talk about best, giant robots.
And the movies that they're in.
So today we're taking on something that we haven't really mentioned much in the past, and that is Macross Frontier.
We are both really big fans of Macross overall. All iterations of the show have been really amazing, except 2, but we don't talk about that much.
And even I don't really hate 2. But
It's a show that's over 25 years old now, and has actually had the same continuity with the exception of 2. But it has followed a progression from 2009, when the first one takes place, to 2059, where we currently are.
And the series itself started in the real world back in 1983. Some of you may know it from Robotech.
Well, both, actually. Robotech is what got us into Macross, so it gets props for that.
Yeah, I do not endorse, heavily censoring anime, but most of us wouldn't know what anime was without Robotech, so I'm still going to defend that aspect of it.
But back to what we're going to be talking about today is actually the Macross Frontier movie, the False Diva. For those that don't know, Macross movies have a tendency to kind of tell their own story.
They like to take the original and retell it in a usually shorter fashion, so I must ask, do you remember Daryl?
The Do You Remember Love movie. That was the movie version of the original Macross story, which later was retold within the series as a movie version of the history of the show.
Macross continuity gets a little bit confusing because of this. Usually, the rule of thumb is pretty simple, though. If it happened in the TV series, that's how it actually happened. Usually, the movies end up being movies within continuity. Does that sort of make sense? Too bad, we're moving on.
Yes. One thing that we kind of noticed, Macross Frontier itself had many nodbacks to the previous series, and most of the time it's done very well. But one thing we did notice compared to the movie was Macross 7 references versus Macross Plus references.
Macross Frontier did come out as a 25th anniversary special for Macross. And there were a lot of throwbacks to Macross 7 in the original, but in this one we got a lot of stuff that felt a lot more like Macross Plus. And we have some theories as to why.
With the current coming of Vocaloids and the trends thereof, many might remember Sharon Apple, the digitally created diva who would sing and hypnotize people and take control of giant space battle fortresses that still have ammo on them. And
even though they're a major historical site and they probably shouldn't be used for that.
But one aspect of the Sharon Apple story was that her concerts were very visual and kind of abstract art, very holographic in nature, which we see a lot of in this movie.
Yeah, the first concert sequence we've seen, for anyone who doesn't know Macross, there's robot planes and there's singing. Lots and lots of singing. And this movie opens with a big old concert, and it's done very Sharon Apple style. We're going back to Macross Plus in a lot of ways.
Unfortunately, with 7, we're not getting as much Firebomber love. But we can start that out with one of our plot holes for the movie. It's kind of more just funny than a major problem. But like I was saying before, as the years that progress, Min-Mei is the original galactic fairy, as they call her.
She is the Beatles of the Macross universe. Everyone likes Min-Mei music.
And she became a star in 2009 within this continuity. Now, jump ahead, the next star, they actually bring this up in the concert. The next star to come out is Sharon Apple in 2040. 31 years have passed with no good music. It's really hilarious. But then Sharon Apple, of course, is followed by Firebomber in 2045, and the current pop divas in 2059.
Which
Which is another 14 years.
But it also leaves us with, I mean, it's not even like a logical progression of music. Because Minmay is very 80s pop. Sharon Apple is 90s techno. Firebomber is Japanese 90s rock. And then the Frontier Girls are very much modern J-pop. So there's not even a logical progression. It's just weird. So our concert opens us up to basically... We have another Macross story with our pilot character who is meeting up with these two girls who... One aspires to be a singer, one is a very established singer, and giant bugs are about to get involved. We're going to get Starship Troopers on these people. So they're in the spaceship, the Macross Frontier, and because of this danger, our hero decides to join the military, and that's where the story begins.
Mm-hmm. And right away, like, within the first couple minutes, apart from this concert, which we obviously knew was going to be different and more flashy, we get a lot of different role reversals within the characters. In this continuity, Ranka has actually known Alto, the male lead, for quite some time. We're not given a specific time, but they know each other fairly well at the beginning of this.
We're set up that they're old friends rather than in the TV series where Ranka totally randomly meets Alto, and it's like kind of like, oh, you're pretty, I have a crush on you now. So she kind of has a better reason to crush on him, which is nice.
And Cheryl, of course, meets Alto at a concert as he's one of the stunt pilots for her show. And she just kind of becomes infatuated with him, I think, because he's pretty.
Also, because...
Which isn't much different from what she does in the show. But we do see in this opening sequence a lot more emphasis on Alto and Cheryl. Like, flying around and Alto trying to save her. In fact, the big shot where you have someone flying down to save someone else who's falling, instead of Ranka and Alto, which was in the series, we have Alto and Cheryl.
Yeah, a lot of the time that Alto spends trying to save Ranka in the TV series version is then switched with Cheryl for the most part, until Alto finally gets in a Valkyrie, and it's kind of played off like he's trying to save both of them.
Which is kind of what he does in the series in general. To kind of put it into perspective, he never really picks one of them for his pairing, if you will.
That's the big difference with these movies is that, like with Do You Remember Love, the old Macross movie, we knew how it was going to end because eventually Hikaru picks a girl. In the TV series, Alto didn't pick nobody.
He said, "You're both my Waynes." Yeah, way to be a player, Alto.
Way to make us wait through this love triangle and not give us anything. So, we don't... Maybe he'll actually pick someone in the movies.
But going back to role reversal, we're going to try and keep this one short. Ranka is a much more mature character in the movie than she was in the series. The series, she was very naive and still, like, infatuated. And here, she is much more sure about herself. She still finds inspiration from Alto, but she's still confident in her own abilities. I felt
she's a lot more yeah, she doesn't mope as much, and even there's a scene where I thought she was pulling an epic mope, and I was like, oh, don't do this to her, and it ended up being like the payoff to one of the smartest Ranka scenes we've ever had. So Ranka is definitely a lot more clever in this version. She's got a lot more than just being adorable. Now she actually has a lot of brains, I think.
On the flip side, Cheryl, on the other hand, she hasn't become more naive, and not necessarily more stupid, intelligence-wise, but she's become a lot more klutzy, I thought.
Yeah, she's really ditzy in this version, which is weird. She's definitely not being, she's not being as mean to Ranka in general, but she's also
clumsy.
She's clumsy, yeah,
and gets rendered unconscious very easily. And
like the slightest tap to the head, she is out.
And we did get a certain feel that they were trying to go for a much more cutesy Cheryl to kind of balance out the fandom between the two characters.
Because Ranka, the Team Ranka versus Team Cheryl I think, can get scarier than Twilight fans, honestly. I hate to say it to all of us Macross people out there, but we can be.
Yeah.
It's true.